Every half hour you record all that data, what the apparent wind, true wind, speed, heading, because that is part of the information that tells you what the weather has done and what your boat has done. Gives you an ability to predict, I think, a little bit better what it might be doing in the next half hour. So yeah, we keep careful data of everything that happens out there.
Anybody else?
I was just going to say, you know, we stack sails down below. What we think is the first thing that may, you know, we're anticipating the next shift. You're always anticipating the next shift based on what you think the forecast is going to do, or what you observed, or any trends you see in the instruments. But certainly, you know, having lights on all the sails. You know, hopefully you got good instrument lights, compass lights, so no one's straining their eyes at 3 in the morning when you're going to squint and everything. I mean, it's proper to make sure you got the right illumination on board. And then again, we stack sails, thinking that, anticipating that next move, and that could be having that sail on deck, ready to go, or certainly right in the companionway.
Does that help?
Well, you know, Pete and I both sailed with a guy who he really isn't known for preventative maintenance. So we won a lot of races, but I think sometimes you gotta plan on stuff not working. One thing that I've always found is a nice thing to have is those little glow in the dark, those little night sticks. I don't know what you call them, but they're a little plastic thing. You shake it or you break it or whatever, and you get some light. That's a great thing to take the compass when the compass light doesn't work. It didn't work the last, you know, race either. Taping a flashlight to the backstay when the masthead light goes out, which went out last time too. They've got a great little product. A guy named Dan Vanderbosch that actually lives up in Anchor Bay area made the little plastic fitting that will attach to a stanchion, and you can hook a flashlight into it. If you don't want to give Dan your $40, you can take 2 hose clamps and make it work that way. I suspect that's how you do it, Greg?
Yeah.
And Pete made a really good point about having the sails organized down below. And you know, sometimes if you've got a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4 or something, maybe you put the odd ones on one side and the even ones on the other side. You know, you know what you're doing. You put the ones most likely to use on the top, because if you're off watch for 3 hours at night, you're not going to fall asleep in the first hour. If you're like us, we usually have a beer when we go off watch, so sometime in the second hour you got to get up and take a pee, and you're not getting much sleep. So when the guys come down below and wake you up because they can't find the sail, that's not a good thing. So organize the sails, put them in a way that anybody can find them, and the whole crew knows where you put them back. Then the famous thing, you know, when you're done with the Genoa turtle, or when you're done with the spinnaker turtle, you ever notice you can't find them when it's time to put the sail away? You find a place. You know, every boat should have one. Like, you always throw it in the head, or you always throw it in a particular bunk, or you always put it in a certain place, because once again, you're waking up everybody getting the thing. And then label the sailbacks. One of the things that happens in Mackinac races, it's not like the Saturday race where you've got your regular guys. Normally you fortify your crew a little bit and get 1 or 2 good sailors that don't typically sail with you to sail in the Mackinac race. Well, hell, they don't know, you know, the reachers in the blue bag and the runners in the yellow bag, or the, you know, the heavy number 1, you know, is in that old orange bag because you lost the one overboard that it came with, and things. So take the time to mark them well. You know, have a stripe system that works. Don't write on it little letters like this. You can't see that at night. If it's a number 2, put it on this big.
Paul?
Night sailing? Lots of lights, ones that work. We always put in brand new batteries. Tricks, the only one I know is at night. Light air, that's where you're going to make all your time. Light air at night, and especially going upwind with the jib. And it's so easy for that helmsman to drift off, stall that jib out. So you want one guy, especially in light air, trimming the jib, and that guy at the helm just holding that boat as still as he can. And he'll look at the telltales as best he can, but I have the guy or me even just trimming that jib out. And you just have a light right on the top telltales, and you just want to keep that top open. And as soon as you see that one dance a little, just bring it in an inch. You just keep doing that all night long.
You know, Al just popped this thing up with the targets for speed, and part of night sailing that's very helpful is if you really know how fast you ought to be going and where you ought to be, you know, aiming this boat. and that if you can't see, you can drive a boat awfully good upwind by just knowing a few concepts, like you know if you lay the boat off, it should go faster. You've got an apparent wind angle, you've looked at it during the day, you know where you should be. And instruments really come in to be helpful at night. Therefore, it's pretty important that they're accurate. If I look back from the years that I used to be in sail making and getting on all these different boats, the single thing that always stunned me the most is how poorly the instruments were calibrated. And somehow maybe the owners can deal with this and learn, and they know how to adjust it and things like that. But certainly a guy like me gets on the boat and I don't understand it doesn't work in this direction or that direction, or the wind speed's off. So you know, you really want to spend the time to make them work. I don't care about the sophistication, the calculations of this and that, but you got to get the wind angles right, you got to get the boat speeds right, the compasses right, and the wind speed right, and then, you know, if you want the software to make it all tell you the answer, fine, but you can figure it out yourself if that works.
Greg, did you have something to add about night sailing?
Well, I think we started with me, but I'll
No, we didn't.
You know, having what Bob said, I don't think I've ever been on a boat. I don't think I've ever been on a boat where one instrument didn't work. I mean, there's always something about marine electronics that's a little bit out of whack. So backup systems, you know, nowadays they have those little anemometers that you can carry in your pocket, or I mean, you can use your cell phone for a GPS nowadays. But be prepared for those things to go down, because they inevitably do. You know.
I'm just gonna say, you know, spring's coming up. It's a great time to shake all those bugs out of the instruments. I mean, you know, if you got a problem with the depth sounder, fix it. You know, if you got an electronic compass, you know, figure it out, because, you know, if you're off by, you know, 3, 4, 5 degrees, you know, and if your wind angle's off, you know, every time you tack or jive, you think you're doing something different than what you really are. You're not going to pick up those subtle shifts, you know, or any trends as well as somebody that has their instruments honed in. It's not that hard to do. It does take some hours of sailing. You know, you can get out of the current and get your boat speed going. You know, it doesn't take, you know, a lot of times you just, on electronic, I mean, just do a couple of spins around and make sure your gear is in the right spot. But getting those solutions right with the compass, the boat speed, and the wind angle will make your life a lot easier. You know, it's just one less thing you got to worry about, right? Preparation, yeah, because, you know, again, it's one less thing to worry about. Now you can concentrate on your competition maybe a little bit more. You can look around the water more and stuff like that. I mean, you know, we didn't talk about, you know, a hand-bearing compass. You know, it's probably the best thing you can have on your boat. You know, when you're sailing along, it's either, you know, hard to do at night, but certainly during the day and stuff, when you can get some guys on the rails or the navigator or whatever, and you can puck people to the lure of you, the weather of you, to see whether or not they're gaining on you or you're gaining on them. You know, it gives you a great idea of what the pressure is on either side of the boat. And a good pair of binos, again, you can look ahead, see whether or not the pull's going forward on these guys, or, you know, the jibs are, you know, they got kites up, we were in a jib, you know, you can see a couple miles ahead with somebody. You get a great idea what to do. I mean, there's a lot of those kind of subtle things that will you know, get those couple hundred yards that you're looking for to get that jump going and be better prepared than the next guy.
You know, if we get back to these instruments not working, a few years ago I was sailing on a boat called Northern Wind, and we had an all-star crew on it. We called it the house. It was full of furniture and everything like that, and we're beating up the Canadian shore, and we tack Russ Nutter, who's no longer with us, as our navigator, and you know, we got the brain trust that will all land enough for 5 or 6 boats on there. And he said, well, you know, when you guys are all done with this, can I kind of point something out to you? Yeah, what, Russ, what is it? And he says, well, I was looking at the GPS, and when we were on port tack, which we had come off of, he says, our VMG was 3.63 knots. And he says, I'm looking at it now, it's 0.7. He says, does that information do anything for you guys? Now, when we were looking at our actual instruments, because they weren't calibrated and they weren't right, we actually thought that these tacks were somewhat equal. So